Picture this. You and I are sitting on the living room floor, maybe late at night with the lights dimmed down, a couple of mugs of hot coffee or tea sitting on the coffee table between us. You look over and you ask me what makes Denis Villeneuve's Dune such an extraordinary phenomenon, why everyone has been losing their minds over it, and what the big deal is.
And instead of giving you a stiff, boring film school lecture with bullet points and chapter headers, I just lean back, smile, and say, man, let me tell you a story. Because Dune isn't just a movie you watch, it's an experience you fall into.
Imagine waking up, or rather dropping right into the middle of Arrakis. The air isn't just hot, it's predatory. It burns your throat with every single breath you take. You look around, and there's nothing. Just an endless, blinding ocean of crimson red sand stretching out to the horizon, whipped up by a storm so violent it could strip the paint off a spaceship.
And then, right beneath your boots, the ground doesn't just vibrate, it screams. A low, guttural, chest-rattling bass note that shakes your teeth. And out of the dunes rises a monster of absolute myth. A colossal sandworm, hundreds of meters long, teeth gleaming like jagged crystal, bursting from the earth to swallow everything in its path. That is how Denis Villeneuve opens the door to his universe. But what makes the story unforgettable, the reason we're still talking about it hours after the credits roll, is that it isn't about giant bugs or sleek CGI spaceships. It's about a kid named Paul Atreides. To really understand Paul, you have to picture where he comes from. His home planet, Caladan, is basically paradise. It's a world of crashing emerald green oceans, misty mornings, ancient forests, and heavy, imposing, brutalist stone castles. His father, Duke Leto Atreides, is a good man, stern, honorable, loved by his people, but playing a very dangerous, deadly game of high-stakes galactic chess. The Emperor of the known universe has basically handed House Atreides the keys to Arrakis. On paper, it sounds like the ultimate promotion.
Arrakis is the only place in the entire cosmos where you can mine spice, the mysterious, cinnamon-scented orange substance that makes interstellar travel possible, stretches human life, and unlocks latent psychic abilities. Without spice, human civilization literally shatters. Spaceships stop flying, and the economy collapses.
So control Arrakis, and you control the universe. But everyone with half a brain knows it's a trap. For decades, Arrakis was brutally exploited by House Harkonnen, cruel, sadistic, grotesque monsters of men who pumped the planet dry of spice while treating the native people, the Fremen, like garbage. Now, the Harkonnens are stepping aside, pretending to retreat. But the Atreides family knows it's an ambush. Duke Leto packs up his entire household, including Paul and his mother, Lady Jessica, and they fly across the stars to take over the capital city of Arrakeen. Can you imagine what it feels like to step off that ship? You go from a lush, wet paradise where water falls freely from the sky to a planet where people wear high-tech suits called still suits designed to capture, filter, and recycle every single drop of moisture your body produces. Your sweat, your tears, your urine into drinkable water. If you cry, you aren't wasting emotion. You're wasting water. And water is life. Villeneuve makes you feel that suffocating heat. He doesn't use bright, plastic Hollywood lighting. Everything is washed out in harsh, glaring yellows and deep, terrifying shadows. When the heavy, dragonfly-like ornithopters roar overhead,
their metal wings clanking with industrial weight, you feel like you're standing right there in the dust, coughing up sand. You sense the looming dread. You know betrayal is coming. And it hits like a freight train. In the dead of night, betrayal strikes from within. Shields fail, trusted allies turn out to be traitors, and the Harkonnens, backed by the Emperor's elite shadow soldiers, the Sardaukar, launch a merciless blitz. House Atreides is wiped out in hours. Duke Leto is killed. Everything Paul knows, loves, and relies on is incinerated. Now, in a normal, run-of-the-mill Hollywood movie, this is where the predictable script kicks in, right? The young prince loses his father, gets angry, trains hard with a wise old master, gets a magical sword, and returns at the head of an army as a pure, clean-cut superhero to save the day, defeat the bad guys, and restore peace and harmony. Dune takes that classic hero's journey, looks you dead in the eye, and rips it to shreds. Because when Paul and his mother Jessica escape the massacre, they don't find a safe haven. They flee straight into the deep, scorching, monster-ridden desert, a place the locals call the Devil's Garden. And this is where the psychological horror of the story truly begins. Paul isn't just a traumatized kid trying to survive. He is waking up to something terrifying inside his own head. See, his mother Jessica is part of the Bene Gesserit, a secretive, centuries-old sisterhood of women who have been manipulating galactic bloodlines, politics, and religion for thousands of years, like master puppeteers. They spent generations planting manufactured prophecies deep inside the culture of the native Fremen people. They seeded the myth of the Lisan al-Gaib, a messiah figure from another world who would come to Arrakis, lead the desert people, and transform their harsh wasteland into a green paradise. And as Paul wanders through the desert, trying to stay alive, his mind starts fracturing. He begins experiencing these hyper-realistic, agonizing visions of the future. He doesn't just see a way to defeat the Harkonnens. He sees a terrifying, apocalyptic holy war, a galactic crusade fought in his name. He sees billions of people burning across the stars, entire planets laid to waste, all because his face became a battle cry. Imagine waking up every single day knowing that your survival means becoming the greatest monster human history has ever seen. That is the nightmare Paul is trapped in. When Paul and Jessica finally encounter the Fremen in the deep desert, led by fierce leaders like Stilgar and guarded by the fierce, sapphire-eyed warrior Chani, Paul doesn't just join them. He realizes he is trapped by a script written centuries before he was born. And this is where the movie becomes a masterclass in tension. If you compare the movie to Frank Herbert's original 1965 novel, Villeneuve actually makes some brilliant adaptation choices. The book is dense, heavy with internal monologues, and deeply philosophical. You get inside everyone's head. But Villeneuve translates all of that internal weight into pure cinematic atmosphere and physical performance. You watch Timothée Chalamet's Paul transform right before your eyes. You see a frightened, soft-spoken, kind-hearted teenager, slowly, painfully, agonizingly harden his heart. To survive among the Fremen, people who view weakness as a death sentence, he has to shed his humanity piece by piece. He has to kill in hand-to-hand combat. He has to suppress his grief. He has to stop being a boy and start becoming a symbol. The dramatic tension builds and builds, like a kettle about to explode, until it reaches the ultimate crucible, the trials of the desert. To truly earn the respect and acceptance of the Fremen, Paul has to do the impossible. He has to walk out into the open, deep desert, find a massive, thundering seismic disturbance, and use a specialized tool called a thumper to pound rhythmically on the sand. That rhythm calls a sandworm. Not a small one, but a colossal, mountain-sized beast. And instead of running away, Paul has to stand his ground, drive specialized metal hooks into the soft flesh beneath the beast's armor rings as it charges, and leverage its own massive body weight to force it upward, climbing onto its back to ride it across the dunes like a living, breathing train. When that scene happens on screen, with Hans Zimmer's score screaming in your ears, a mix of synthetic soundscapes, bagpipes, and raw, thunderous throat singing, the energy in the room completely shifts. It is a breathtaking sequence of pure, unadulterated willpower and survival. When Paul successfully rides the worm, the Fremen erupt into cheers, and you feel this massive electric surge of triumph. You want to cheer right along with them.
Dial back into reality for a second, though. Look closer at Paul's face as he stands atop that roaring monster, wind whipping his cloak, sand flying everywhere. There is no joy in his eyes, only a cold, heavy resignation.
Because in that moment, he realizes the trap has snapped shut. He is no longer just Paul Atreides. He has crossed the threshold. He is now Lisan al-Gaib. He is the prophecy made flesh. He is the icon that millions of religious zealots are ready to die for. And worse, kill for. And that's how the first chapter of his journey ends. Not with a neat little Hollywood bow where everyone hugs and the credits roll over a happy pop song. It ends on the absolute precipice of a holy war. It leaves you sitting there in the dark, feeling this profound mix of awe and deep, chilling unease. It reminds us of a terrifying truth, that sometimes when you fight just to stay alive, when you seek survival and vengeance against impossible odds, you end up unleashing ancient, unstoppable forces that can never, ever be put back in the box. And as the screen finally cuts to black and the theater goes dead silent, you realize something chilling. The giant monster crawling beneath the sand? That's terrifying, sure. But the most terrifying thing in the entire universe isn't the beast in the desert. It's the destiny we choose to walk into.